Hi, fifth graders. We are at the end of Tuck Everlasting. We are at the epilogue where it ties it all up in a nice bow. So let's go ahead and hear how Tuck Everlasting comes to an end. The sign said, "Welcome to Treegap," but it was hard to believe that this was really Treegap. The main street hadn't changed so very much, but there were many other streets now crossing the main street. The road itself was blacktop. There was a white line painted down the center. May and Tuck, on the seat of a clattering wooden wagon, thumped slowly into Treegap behind the fat old horse. They had seen continuous change and were accustomed to it, but here it seemed shocking and sad. "Look," said Tuck. "Look, May. Ain't that where the wood used to be? It's gone. Not a stick or stump left. And her cottage, that's gone too." It was very hard to recognize anything, but from the little hill which had once lain outside the village and was now very much a part of it, they thought they could figure things out. "Yeah," said May. "That's where it was, I do believe. Of course, it's been so long since we were here, I can't tell for certain." There was a gas station there now. A young man in greasy coveralls was polishing the windshield of a wide and rusty Hudson automobile. As May and Tuck rolled past, the young man grinned and said to the driver of the Hudson, who lounged at the wheel, "Looky there, in from the country for a big time." And they chuckled together. May and Tuck clattered on into the village proper, past a Catholic mixture of houses, which soon gave way to shops and other places of business. A hot dog stand, a dry cleaner, a pharmacy, a 5 and 10, another gas station, a tall, white frame building with a pleasant veranda, the Treegap Hotel, family dining, easy rates, the post office. Beyond that, the jailhouse, but a larger jailhouse now, painted brown with an office for the county clerk. A black and white police car was parked in front, with a red glass searchlight on its roof and a radio antenna, like a buggy whip, fastened to the windshield. May glanced at the jailhouse, but looked away quickly. "See beyond there," she said, pointing. "That diner. Let's stop there and get a cup of coffee, all right?" "All right," said Tuck. "Maybe they'll know something." Inside the diner gleamed with chrome and smelled like linoleum and ketchup. May and Tuck took seats on rumbling swivel stools at the long counter. The counterman emerged from the kitchen at the rear and sized them up expertly. They looked all right. A little weird, maybe, their clothes especially, but honest. He slapped a cardboard menu down in front of them and leaned on the foaming orangeade cooler. "You folks from off?" he asked. "Yep," said Tuck, "just passing through town." "Sure," said the counterman. "Say," said Tuck cautiously, fingering the menu, "didn't there used to be a wood once down the other side of town?" "Sure," said the counterman. "Had a big electrical storm, though, about 3 years ago now, or thereabouts. Big tree got hit by lightning, split right down the middle, caught fire and everything, tore up the ground, too. Had to bulldoze her all out." "Oh," said Tuck. He and May exchanged glances. "Coffee, please," said May. "Black, for both of us." "Sure," said the counterman. He took the menu away, poured coffee into thick pottery mugs, and leaned again on the orangeade cooler. "Used to be a freshwater spring in that wood," said Tuck boldly, sipping his coffee. "Don't know anything about that," said the counterman. "Had to bulldoze her all out, like I say." "Oh," said Tuck. Afterward, while May was shopping for supplies, Tuck went back through the town on foot, back the way they had come, out to the little hill. There were houses there now, and a feed and grain store, but on the far side of the hill, inside a rambling iron fence, was a cemetery. Tuck's heart quickened. He had noticed the cemetery on the way in. May had seen it too. They had not spoken about it though, but both knew it might hold the other's answers. Tuck straightened his old jacket. He passed through an archway of wrought iron curlicues and paused, squinting at the weedy rows of gravestones. And then, far over to the right, he saw a tall monument, once no doubt imposing, but now tipped slightly sideways. On it was carved one name, Foster. Slowly, Tuck turned his footsteps toward the monument and saw as he approached that there were other, smaller markers all around it, a family plot. And then his throat closed, for there it was. He had wanted it to be there, but now that he saw it, he was overcome with sadness. He knelt and read the inscription. In loving memory, Winifred Foster Jackson, dear wife, dear mother, 1870 to 1948. So, said Tuck to himself, 2 years. She's been gone 2 years. He stood up and looked around, embarrassed, trying to clear the lump from his throat. But there was no one to see him. The cemetery was quiet. In the branches of a willow behind him, a red-winged blackbird chirped. Tuck wiped his eyes hastily. Then he straightened his jacket again, drew his hand to a brief salute, and said, "Good girl," out loud. And he turned and left the cemetery, walking quickly. Later, as he and May rolled out of Treegap, May said softly, without looking at him, "She's gone?" Tuck nodded. "She's gone," he answered. There was a long moment of silence between them, and then May said, "Poor Jessie." "He knew it, though," said Tuck. "At least, he knowed she wasn't comin'. We all know that, long time ago." "Just the same," said May. She sighed, and then she sat up a little straighter. "Well, where to now, Tuck? No need to come back here no more." "That's so," said Tuck. "Let's just head on out this way. We'll locate something." "All right," said May. And then she put her hand on his arm and pointed. "Look out for that toad." Tuck had seen it too. He reined in the horse and climbed down from the wagon. The toad was squatting in the middle of the road, quite unconcerned. In the other lane a pickup truck rattled by, and against the breeze it made, the toad shut its eyes tightly, but it did not move. Tuck waited till the truck had passed, and then he picked up the toad and carried it to the weeds along the road's edge. "Darn fool must think it's going to live forever," he said to May. And soon they were rolling on again, leaving Treegap behind, and as they went, the tinkling little melody of the music box drifted out behind them and was lost at last, far down the road. And that's the end of Tuck Everlasting. So we now know that Winnie did not drink the water from the spring in the wood, and the Tucks may have come across the special toad that Winnie gave her water to, and we know that the story began when Winnie was about 12, I think is what it was. And so that means the story began in 1882, and Winnie died in 1948, and that the Tucks came back to Treegap to see if Winnie was still alive in 1950. So the story took place over decades. And if you want to do the math, Winnie lived for 78 years. So she was 78 years old when she passed away. All right. I hope you enjoyed Tuck Everlasting as much as I did, boys and girls. I think this story is magical. And if you have the opportunity, watch the movie and compare and contrast how different the movie is to the book.